Do what?
You'll come out of
I need to. I really do.
Mhm.
I know Phil Stoltz is happy with it because a lot of them go across the street to his place for lunch.
Well, that's good. Positive economic impact.
Positive economic impact.
Anybody else, anything going on? Anybody else? I think I mentioned before over at Erie, I know Dave and I were talking before the meeting. We reestablished our partnership with MATC and our nursing program, and we're doing really well. We've had several groups of our nursing students come through here at Community Hospital, and that's been working wonderfully. I try to meet with the ladies, or I don't think we've been gentlemen yet,
You got some of those.
but I didn't see them yet. But I'm seeing them.
Okay.
But the groups that have come through, I've had the opportunity to meet with them briefly, just welcome them to the facility. You know, most of them know that I'm the board chair, so, you know, I just spent a few minutes just to say hello, and I think it's been working great. And we're going to have the opportunity to hire some of those nurses after they finish the program over at the hospital. We have some positions that are available, so it gives us first dibs on them, so we kind of like that too. That's all I have. All right, next we'll move down to the consent agenda. September 2020 meeting minutes. Take a second to take a look at that under attachment 1. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved to second. Do you need a minute to take a look at it, everybody? Before we, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. All right, and we will approve the check register. That's under tab number 2. Take a minute to take a look at that. And I'll entertain any questions or discussion. Sure, Carmel can answer any questions.
I just had a question about the 2 invoices from BDN.
Yeah.
Are there 2 separate jobs? Is that what that's for?
No, it actually is the same job, but the one for $15,530, they were billed the exact same. So our accounting office thought it was the same one, and we talked with them and they resent it. So that's actually one from about a month or 2 ago. We just had to end up paying it because they always put the percentage that they're complete. So if you see that one, it was at 65% completion, and then the other one's at 75%. So it was just, we paid 2 bills in 1 month for BDN, but it's all for the Lomego project.
Now, Charleston Wilson, is that just our property insurance? Is that-
That is,
And that's including our WAMI?
that's including our Lomego.
How, did it increase very much from last?
Not
time?
very much, just because it's a smaller unit and it's not, we only had half of it being used for half the year, and then it won't be until December till the second building is finished, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? We don't have any other questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve the check register.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the check register.
Properly moved and second. Second. So properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. And then next, the organizational update number 3. Just went over some of this in executive session. Hire for wellness program.
Yes.
We'll have introductions with him in December.
Now, is that in anticipation on moving east as well with that individual?
No, this is.
Oh, to moving.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
this is support of the welding program.
Here.
Yeah,
Okay.
the demand has gotten so high that We're having to restructure it to where we can run 50 students through the
Wow.
program now.
Okay,
So the program assistant will work 4 10s and support both the morning instructor and the afternoon instructor.
okay, great.
That was exactly what I was gonna ask, how were we doing on the program? I know the demand has been going up for welders, period.
It's really high.
So that's good.
The plan is to put in a 10 to 12 station in Montego.
Right.
That's the goal.
So my question on those lines, once we get to that expansion of Montego with welding program, do we want to bring in building trades at that time to talk with students, talk with instructors? Because I know there's a huge demand, especially, I'm just going to use Jeffrey Energy Center because of the Boilermaker and pipe fitter crafts,
Yes, absolutely.
millwrights and
Yep.
iron workers.
Right now, the well-being is guaranteed, but Jim is part of it, working on the consortium agreement that will
Right.
include those additional opportunities.
Great. I think I still have some contacts with those folks.
Okay, good.
You've been gone a while. Wow.
Not with those people.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve, the organizational update.
Move to approve the organizational update.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Okay, properly moved second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. None opposed, motion carries. And last, we do the president's report, tab 4. Do you have any comments?
Boss man, you have any comments?
Well, I've got some other updates when we get to the next part, or the,
Jim, I do have a question on the Wamego School District
Yeah.
board meeting. How was that received and comments?
it was very positive. Tim Winter, of course, super excited. Tim and the superintendent from Rock Creek came in the half hour before I was, and the last portion of their part of the show was nothing except talking about Manhattan Tech. I did have, when I presented to the school board, asked for questions, again, almost everything positive. I did have one question about shutting down dental hygiene and auto collision. And I shared with them, as we've discussed, the reasons why we did those things, but also the things we're looking at related to the labor data, the high wage, high demand, critical needs. And as you just mentioned a little bit ago, I talked about, we're hoping we can put together the resources and bring in plumbing training, electrician training, and many other things, but it has to fit the regional economic workforce needs. So there you go.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to see how it was received, see if I need to Guido anybody in Wamego.
Jim, can you talk a little bit about the K-Board meeting, the critical environment technology approval, or?
Yeah.
I know we talked about that, but
Right.
you can share that with the board.
So let's go back to the TEA meeting the month before, because it goes through them first. And at their curriculum committee meeting, there was good discussion about it. Of course, when we do these things, Sarah and I work on the politics, even though she doesn't like the politics. But we brought in Ray Frederick, who's the chair of the Tech Ed Authority, and he's been interim president at Wichita Tech years ago. And he runs a plumbing business down in Wichita. But he was on campus a couple of years ago when we were just starting that CET lab, and because we held the KTC retreat here. We've had kept other people involved. Sarah and I worked the KBOR staff, so they totally understood where we were coming from with this. And at the curriculum committee meeting, they discussed it back and forth. They discussed the fact that this is thinking outside the box, looking around the corner at what's coming next. And they realized that's one of their barriers. They look for things where the data says this is definitely what you want to do, but today's data doesn't tell you what's happening tomorrow necessarily. And so I was thrilled. A member of the Tech Ed Authority is Mike Bean, and he's in the State Department of Commerce. And he made the motion to approve our critical environment tech program. And when he made that motion, he said, because this is the kind of thinking we need in Kansas. Ray Frederick was asked by KBOR last month after KBOR approved the program on their consent agenda. Ray Frederick gave an update about the TEA. They asked him about what are some innovative things the two-year colleges are doing? His first example, critical environment tech at Manhattan Tech. So, you know, they realize, and we explained to him, Sarah and I've explained to the staff and everybody time after time, this has been an incredible journey because it goes back and forth. What do we do? And honestly, we kept saying, and this is true, we kept looking, where's the red light that says, don't go there? Because this one is so outside the box, but it's exactly what the state's looking for. So I want to thank Sarah, Chelsea Weiss, who's running the grant for us, Gary Maple. They've done some incredible work. This is so interdisciplinary because of what it will do. And we'll talk when we're done with consent agenda about this next grant we're getting. We're doing some amazing things that really break out of the traditional mold of tech ed.
Any questions about that? I just thought that was good information to share. Jim had mentioned it to me before about the approval. And I know that there are a lot of people that are looking at us from the outside to see what we're doing here. And I think they're being impressed quite a bit when they hear the feedback from Sarah and Jim and the team when they go up and have an opportunity to talk. We don't need to go into a lot of detail about it, Jim. I just want to mention the last bullet on that first page about the meeting with the Brandler family. Over in Geary, we have a location that we're looking maybe at a partnership with the college and trying to get the college over into Geary County that we talked about before. There may be some opportunities there down the line. We're still in the early stages of conversation, but I think that it could be a positive thing for us. Jim has wanted to do that since he got here. There's been some hesitancy on that side of the river to come to the table. We've had a meeting with the Bramlages. I've extended an invitation now to the superintendent of schools, Dr. Eggleston. We're waiting to get feedback from him so that we can see what the school needs. And we're also going to include the Chamber of Commerce Director, Mickey Dean, EDC Director. We want to talk and see what the needs are. Jim's been beating this drum for a long time about what does the city and the county need as far as employment, so that we can make sure we structure the right programs in the area should we expand over into Geary County. So, Jim, I really appreciate you stepping up and meeting with the Bramlages a couple of times here on short notice.
We'll be setting up. I'm going to need Dave Fritchen and Jared Willick to go over sometime. That they're looking at purchasing a building in downtown Junction. We're initially looking at the main floor storefront. It's probably 7,000 to 8,000 square feet of space. But again, and LJ's been on the meetings where I've stressed to all of these groups, we've got to have the partnership with the school district, and we have to know we're bringing in programs that lead to jobs in the area. Otherwise, whatever we do doesn't help that community or the area. But I really appreciate the Bramlages keeping us on their radar and wanting to work with this. They realize we don't want to own it, but they want to help us establish that presence in Junction City when the time is right, when the conditions are met.
And I really appreciate the help, Jim, and everybody stepping up to try to make it happen. With that, I think we're complete with the president's report.
I have a question.
No, go ahead.
Jim, one of your bullets down on employer needs and responses, is that the Train Corporation? It's in HVAC
Yes.
companies? Okay.
Yep.
Out of Southeast Kansas. How do you believe their support's going to be for our technical students and then helping them out with their future?
Train is one of the early members of this group called NC3 that we're part of, the National Coalition of Certification Centers.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Ward is their rep for the area, and I've worked with Kevin for years. I started working with him when I was at Neosho. And of course, Kevin wants to push Train, no doubt about that. But with NC3, it's pushing those credentials, those third-party credentials. And that, again, that's what sets the tech colleges apart. And KBOR, the last 2 years, has paid 80% of any two-year college membership fee to be part of NC3. So it's only costing us $1,000 a year instead of $5,000. We've working, and Sarah's taken the lead on a lot of this. You know, we're working with welding with Lincoln Electric. We're putting in their curriculum so we can test for their credentials. We're exploring 3M provides several credentials through NC3. One is on PPE gear. We're looking at that with our NBAF stuff. This grant we're going to talk about next, we're working with Festo, which is a German multinational company, on controls, automation, leading to their credentials. And then Kevin and I talked a few weeks ago about this data analytics they put together, and Sarah and I sat in on his webinar Monday. And the first pieces of that, the first two certifications, are not trained proprietary to train. And again, these are things that we could start looking at to bring in, working with our school districts, especially 383 Wamego Rock Creek, and give students the chance to start learning and practicing data analytics, which applies to every program. So while all of these companies that are part of NC3 like to push their product, they really are a big help in setting up those independent credentials that are recognized by industry.
Very good.
Any questions, discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the president's report.
So moved.
Properly moved, second.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now down to the general agenda. The advanced manufacturing grant approval under tab 5. Jennifer Carmel.
I'll let Jim start.
This started late in July with a conversation. Trent Armbrust, who's now with the State Department of Commerce, he was with the chamber here for many years. Trent called me one Sunday and had an idea, and we talked back and forth. And I gave him some feedback from our perspective, but it was to use some of the stimulus funds coming through the governor's office to the state to jumpstart economic recovery. And while the initial part of the process went smoothly, the back part didn't, because the state had hired a consultant who had to review everything before they'd release the money, and that's what hung things up for many weeks. We're one of 4 technical colleges that are receiving a grant from the State Department of Commerce for advanced manufacturing. The others are Northwest Tech, North Central Tech, and Flint Hills Tech. The other, Wichita Tech, submitted a proposal, was not funded. Washburn Tech, I understand, was not funded. We got 75% of the funding we requested. And again, this partners us up with NC3 and Festo, as I mentioned before. This will allow us to put in a very comprehensive mechatronics lab, which will feed into CET, HVAC, information networking tech, construction trades, even automotive tech. And as Sarah is building on my hallucinations, this sets the stone, the foundation for us to do industrial engineering tech. Okay. We're asking you to approve to waive the current policies. This is a sole source vendor. Can't go out for bids on this, and I think we've got all the paperwork, but it's $366,200. And the cool thing with this grant process that I was able to work with Trent on, most of the money has to be used on equipment. This is like sending us to the toy store. So many grants limit you on equipment. This one is equipment heavy, and that's what makes this one a lot of fun. It has a very tight timeline to put it in place, to spend the money this calendar year and get things introduced. We'll introduce concepts as early as this spring and hopefully move into some coursework by next fall. With this Festo and NC3 program, and Sarah can explain it more than I can, but we're buying into their curriculum, which will give us other certificate, Associate of Applied Science, and credential options. With that, let me turn it over to the VPs.
So I'll start. What we're asking you to approve is one of our policies, 6.2.5, is sole source justification. Part of another policy is any projects that we do that's over a certain amount has to come to you for approval. And then we have to go out for a sealed bid process. And so what Jim has presented is 6.2.5 policy is our sole source justification policy. And that just says, as long as we can justify that we can get, that we have a sole source vendor that's going to provide us all of the things that we need, that with your approval, we can use that vendor without doing a sealed bid process. And so that's what he's asking for your permission today. But I don't know if you wanted to extend on any of the curriculum and Festo things.
So when Jim came to the table and said, I want to do mechatronics, of course I rolled my eyes. And then I did a little digging. Being a partner with NC3, the first thing I did was look at their stuff. and finding Festo in regards to them doing the advanced mechatronics. It's laid out very nicely. Once we obtain the equipment, then we'll send Gary Maple to do the train the trainer, and we'll get all the curriculum. And they have their own learning management system, their own platform. So our, it's set up very similar to how the LEAPS training is done with welding that Lincoln Electric created. But he'll be our instructor. He'll learn how to present the material within the classroom, how to utilize the equipment. And then we'll have the learning management system and the curriculum pieces from that to be able to create the certificate pieces and then the AAS. So there's two different exit points within this. Right now, there's the kind of level 1 fundamentals. There's actually a course that we can offer at the secondary level with juniors and seniors to get them introduced to this if they want to go this route. Then the second level is that advanced mechatronics. That is where individuals are getting hired, is with that second level. Festo has created the Industry 4.0 level, which is way ahead of where the industry is actually at. It's the same concept, the same frame of thinking of where we created the Critical Environment Technologies program, and we're kind of ahead of the game in this particular area. They're there as well. So we're not looking at that advanced level 3. When the industry gets to the point where they want that, we'll look at these value added certificate pieces so the student can kind of customize their training. And if they're going to work at a certain industry partner and they're wanting that additional experience, then we can offer that as well. But right now we're just looking at this level 2, which is exactly what somebody needs going out into this industry. So it's going to be very clean, very straightforward. Just as Jim said, the goal is to get the equipment here so that Gary can do the training. And then we'll spend this in the spring. Gary, Nathan, and I will work on doing the curriculum development. So we'll bring the courses through for approval, and then we'll bring the program itself for approval, hopefully within the fall, and then we'll have a new AAS.
I know Westar or apprenticeship program, we use exclusively the lat bolt
Okay.
program using the hydraulics and pneumatics
Mhm.
section of it as well and when I left, we were incorporating PLCs into it also. So I know that the program's pretty solid. Is there any need for that advanced program with any of our farming partners such as Gleaner or Heston, anybody out of Heston, things such as that for the advanced type?
Since we haven't gotten into the ag side of pieces yet, I don't know that at that point, but that is an area that we're exploring.
It would also tie in then to Kansas City with the auto manufacturing.
Right.
That would be down there as well.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what Train has going in automation as well. I'm sure that they're
Yes.
moving that direction.
They are.
also.
Yep, absolutely.
What's the value to the graduate, to the student? What do they get the force of having this training
They
as
can,
opposed to not having it?
right now, Festo provides the training, so they could go to a Festo training center, kind of like what Lincoln Electric, they provide full training, so you can go to a Lincoln Electric center. We're gonna be the only ones in the Midwest that has such a comprehensive lab to be able to provide this level of training here.
I mean, like.
Right.
Long-term.
Yeah, so, yeah, the students.
That I don't know where, I don't know which one that's.
Example would be your HVAC techs. Everything's soft start now, so it's done with programmable logic controllers and things such as that. So they would have that good foundation going out to go to work for Central Mechanical or whomever. They'd already have that base knowledge rather than Central having to invest in sending David out to train to get trained in the systems they already know and have that base knowledge.
I have a couple of questions. So we were only awarded 75% of what we asked for.
What we had to leave out, there was a component in the proposal that added a specific secondary education for like the high school. We had to take that part out. We will look for some more grants for that and for the next level for that Industry 4.0 level.
You kind of beat me to, I was wondering if it created an unforecasted need, but you were able to just cut it down and to what we were awarded. That's good.
And actually, once this is approved, if it is approved, then there's a within secondary, with the secondary sector, and we can utilize some of those funds to get these pieces that we need to be able to offer the courses at that level. And what's the total cost of the equipment again?
Around 300 and we were.
366,200 is what we're getting.
Right under that, because we were able to, like 350.
Okay.
And we're working directly with this company because they're their equipment. So,
Just way I was born out there, kind of
And
confused.
how's their support with it?
With the equipment?
Yeah.
They're gonna come in and train.
they're gonna
Yeah.
come in and-
Part of the package is
2-3 years down the road.
That should be part of the package.
it'll start that way, and then there'll be an annual membership or subscription we'll have to maintain.
An annual maintenance fee
Mhm.
on
And
the,
there's-
on the equipment. Okay.
You think we'll have enough interest from students on this?
I can sell industrial communication engineering. Are you kidding? We have industrial school in our backyard. I can sell this sucker. No problem.
We put this in place along with that data analytics. This is where industry is already at, and they're needing the workforce. We're gonna be able to jumpstart a lot of people.
And as Sarah mentioned, being able to go into the high school and offer, or just at least recruit there. we'll probably have some interest in that.
This one I'm not worried about.
But we will need an action to,
A motion to approve it.
a motion to approve the sole source.
Mr. Chair. I move that we.
Before we go to
I'm sorry.
the sole source is the reason we're trying to go sole source, the timing, because we have to spend the money. on-
No, the
They're
reason.
the only vendor.
Because these are the folks that are doing all of it. They have the equipment, the curriculum, everything. So it's
They're-
one vendor.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I move that we accept the sole source through, was it Festus?
Festo.
Festo. Festus.
Showing your age. Properly moved, do I have a second? A second. All right, we properly moved a second, all those in favor, say aye. All right, looks like we got all ayes.
Thank you.
Brett was a little late to the table, I was making sure. The motion passes. All right, forecast and monitoring reports from Ellen.
Yes, what you have in front of you with attachment 6 is one of the president's monitoring reports that we have to provide to you annually. This is the budget and financial planning and forecasting annual monitoring report. And what this is reflecting to you is a couple of things. First, that he and I, or the college, is not going to the budget should not deviate significantly from what you all approve or risk financial jeopardy. And we kind of give you a little bit of information. So we give you quarterly financial updates and monthly expenditure reports. We, number 2, talked about how our budget is compiled, and that is the state funding, Perkins funding, grant funding, and then student funding. Number 3 does not prioritize the menu of capital outlay funds. And we have a specific process that we use to award capital outlay funds, and capital outlay funds from the state. This year we received $132,745, and the college is required to match 50% of that, so $66,000. Number 4, we do not provide annual operating funds for board prerogatives, but we do the fees that are outlined below are what we have projected for this year. So our audit that we're currently undergoing is $11,500. We have budgeted legal fees for about $35,000 this year, and then there is a budget for the board for professional development in the amount of $500. And so again, this is a monitoring report that we provide and kind of give you a little bit more information, but because we do provide you the quarterly reports, our annual audit report and our monthly expenditure report, President Jim and I report to compliance.
On that as well.
No, it's just an FYI.
You had master plan, so-
Right, Jim? FYI.
Yep.
FYI.
Mel, is that the 66,000 included in the annual budget we'll look at?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when, when you look at the budget and the capital outlay, I'll have the 210 or whatever the amount of capital outlay is together. So that's the state fund and the funds that we are required to match.
I have a question on the legal fees.
Yes, sir.
Because of the kind of additional contract negotiations that the college has been going through with faculty and whatnot, how does that budget for legal fees compare to that?
That's a great question. We have two attorney contacts. So we actually are members of the Kansas Association of School Board. And with that membership, we have access to the attorney that is expert in negotiations and board of directors and things of that nature. So mainly we utilize that attorney when we have specific questions when it comes to negotiations or anything of that nature. However, Mr. Dietrich, who you saw on the screen tonight, that is specifically for his legal fees. So we budget that amount, and I really just look at the last couple of years and try to do an estimation. And so while he is a pretty expensive attorney, we also work with his junior attorneys to help us as well. And that's how we, minimize the time. So for negotiations, we typically use the membership, and that doesn't cost any extra, and then you use Dawn on the back end. So we try to piecemeal things together, kind of.
And our next two items are, Sarah?
They are. So me and my team have been working on HLC, we've been working on HLC for months, and that includes going through all our policies and doing some updates. You'll notice some of the policies that I bring forward from academics, they haven't been looked at since 2011, and so we're going through this and probably quite a few changes. So I provided a copy that shows the changes that we were making. So you can see those, and then a very clean version of the policy itself. With the individual course cancellation policies, we haven't changed anything. The whole concept is basically laying out the procedure process so that if faculty would need to cancel a class, we have created an electronic process for them to be able to submit that cancellation. It goes on the website right away. That's the biggest change on this. It goes on the website right away. Plus, it puts in here that if possible, that if the instructor has to cancel class for a day, that they still try to continue with some type of assignment or activity on the LMS. So while we may be losing a day of face-to-face time, the student themselves are not losing all of the instructional time. So this is just an FYI, since the policy is already in place. If anybody has any questions?
So on the LMS stuff, is there going to be any change? I've been listening to area school districts on what their plan is for snow days. Are we going to be looking at anything similar to that for?
One of the policies I'm going to be working on is the implement weather
Okay.
policy, and because we have to do this, because the faculty have been doing live Zooms, and I think having to go through last spring where we did 6 weeks of instruction online, basically, a lot of them have adapted to that capability. So if they happen to have to be out, they're either doing a prior Zoom lecture that is available that they can throw up there. They have maybe a couple activities that are in their back pocket that they can continue with. I think we're in a better position now than we were last year because of COVID. That with inclement weather, if we would happen to get a blizzard and we had to shut down for 3 days straight, that while as a technical institution, we're going to suffer a little bit because we do heavily rely on that hands-on training. The students themselves are not going to learn, they're not going to lose some time as it is. We'll be able to do the didactic, the lecture pieces, and then they can come in and when they would typically be in the classroom, do reinforce that hands-on learning piece.
I know one of the great challenges that we had last spring is the connectivity for students, being able to get on. Is there any improvement on that we can offer to the students? Should we have to go there again?
Right. I haven't heard anything in regards to students having connectivity issues.
Okay.
Canvas is very mobile based as well.
Sure.
So it's very clean. They can pull it up on their cell phones. So I haven't heard of any additional issues. I think
Okay.
last year we ran into it because it's so last minute.
Right,
But I also know that WTC opened up all the hot spots
mhm,
in Walmigo, you know, and so I haven't heard anything, but it's very accessible.
sure. I know Jim was encouraging students to park out here in the parking lot to
We did.
get signal if they needed it.
We did. We had a student who parked her van out here and that's how she did her classes.
With this being from, in 2011, you didn't feel that there was any need to change any of the verbiage, any wording, any.
Oh, yeah, that's what this copy is.
Okay.
The re-
That's what the red is. Okay. I try to make it as clean as possible, but yeah, I have the verbiage. Quite a bit. I did. I can press. Very straightforward.
The way my wife works, you know,
Black and white, get to the point. Yes. So. Then the other one. Did you know about the other one, class cancellation?
Open about.
Oh, no, the other one, the faculty credentials.
I handed out both of
Did you put them in a folder? You did. I'm confusing her. I'm sorry, that's my fault. I will promise you that.
My brain's not wired.
Don't believe me. Don't believe me. This next one that's coming around is faculty credential. We have to abide by HLC standards when we hire faculty, which they have very strict guidelines on what that looks like. And so this is just updating the language. HLC went through and updated their criterion and made it effective September 2020. That's all this is. We still abide by the same standards. It's just updating the language so that when they come for the visit, they can see we reviewed it, we're in compliance with what the recommendations, what they require, and then we'll be able to show evidence that that's how we hire individuals. And these credentials are effective across the board, even with our concurrent and dual credit partners.
So are you not gonna add a revised date in?
I will after this board meeting.
Yeah, I've been running into this for the last 6 months with the hospital where we've had to go back in and review and then revise just based off of length of time that it's been with policies that have just sat on the shelf. So
Yeah, there's several, so we're totally kind of working through them. But these two, were very straightforward, like I said, we're not changing the intent of these policies,
Yeah.
we're not changing the, overall reason of these policies. A lot of it, the class cancellation is just procedural, and the faculty credential is literally utilizing the same language that's already in the higher education guidelines. The credential one would be a good one for you guys to have on hand, when we talk about the HLC visit.
On the credentialing change in here on the equivalent experience, you're talking about licensing, et cetera, for the
Yes.
credential.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. And that's their language.
correct.
And that's a latitude that only tech programs have in the world of accreditation. You don't have that with gen ed, graduate studies, et cetera, only tech ed.
That first level approval is required for general education courses. Same exact approval process that is required at the university level.
Okay.
So we have to follow through. Little one.
Those are just updates, so no action needed on those. And we'll roll into discussion of ends. CARES grant update, Reverend Carmella.
Yes. So what I am passing. I believe it was last board meeting. We presented the CARES Act grant and the update. And so this hasn't changed much, but I wanted to kind of give you an update. We were, let's see, nothing has changed with KBOR, Sparks KBOR, except that we've had additional expenses. We were awarded more than what we originally thought from Potawatomi County, so that's going to help with our Wamego facility. They actually approved 2 smart boards to go into that facility for a cost of $12,916. Riley County, we have to submit reimbursement requests, and so they did approve our first reimbursement request, so we were reimbursed $14,000 recently. And then there are 3 higher education, it's called Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, HEERF. Last month, we only presented the first and second grant. They actually awarded 3 grants to some higher ed institutions. Portion 1 was for the student, which we awarded to the student. Portion 2 was an institutional portion to cover costs associated with COVID-related items, whether you had to go distance, whether you had to sanitize, things of that nature. The third portion was designated for public and private for those institutions that didn't, their prior awards did not equal $500,000. And so we were able to get the difference of our 1 and 2, and the third one was the difference between that and 500,000. And that actually is to help fill the gap of annual loss revenue. So we were awarded $111,000. So we're going to kind of hold on to that and see, because as you know, or I believe we provided this information to you last month, is that our fall enrollment is slightly down. And we noticed the difference with this semester. So we wanted to, Jim and I wanted to present this to you again, just to kind of keep you updated on all the grants, because as you can tell right now, we have been awarded about $782,000 worth of grants, which is fantastic to help us during this COVID time.
And actually, the advanced manufacturing grant we can add into this as well, because it's stimulus funds.
It
That will
could. So again,
put us at 1.149 million.
1.1 million.
And that's roughly, we've got about 16 to 18% of our budget has come from CARES and stimulus funds, which is a godsend for us. So, and we're using it very effectively.
We are.
Don't
We
you
are.
want to know where that money is coming from? You know, the state of Kansas couldn't give us any money, but then here they're throwing it at us. Don't you want to know where it's coming from?
These are your tax dollars at work, and we appreciate it and thank you.
It is. It's from the U.S. Department of Education, which we're very careful on how we utilize the funds. They have very specific things that we have to follow, and so that helps kind of shore up a little bit of our college dollars. So we just wanted to provide that update to you all.
What's the note about Pot County not reimbursing?
We haven't submitted that yet. So those two out of all of these other grants are reimbursable grants. So we have to purchase, submit our request, and then they reimburse us. And they're still finalizing their process. They approved us for the 12,000. We spent the 12,000. Now I'm just waiting on the reporting factor to send back to them for reimbursement. So.
We'll let you know if you need to.
I'll talk. Wax on the first lives down the road from the chair of the county commission. I know where you live.
Okay. Yeah.
Couple other quick updates. On November 12th, Marvin Wade and I will be presenting to the Advantage Manhattan group about the Career Academy. Advantage Manhattan is the fundraising segment of the Chamber of Commerce. And they requested that we do this presentation to them. And then later in November, Marvin has asked me to join him to present it to his school board. So that project continues to make progress. You've heard a lot about COVID. One of the key things I want to point out is we're being as proactive as we can be. I've had discussions with senior admin to immediately start looking at how we, again, can rotate people, have them work remotely, get ahead of flu season and the spread of COVID that's happening. We're talking, when we do come back from our Thanksgiving break, to start taking temperatures again. When we come back in January, the same thing. But we are looking at how we can do more remote work among the staff, and also staff the Wamego Center for people, so they don't need to come on campus to work necessarily as much. So we're being as proactive as we can with that, because it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Talked about Junction City, talked about Wamego. Things with KBOR and legislature are picking up. I've got the Tech Ed Authority meeting this Thursday. We're looking at, they've asked for us to come up with different funding options for Excel and CTE when there's not enough funding. The current process is to prorate. And among the other tech colleges right now, most of the support is to leave it the way it is and prorate it, but we'll see. We're also being asked to discuss among the two-year college sector, things we can do to increase efficiencies. One of the things I've discussed with Scott Smathers at KBOR is how KBOR could act as a grant clearinghouse and sharing information about grants out to the colleges. While most of us get the same information, we don't always get the same information. So it's important that they be as proactive as they can, letting us know grants we can go after. When we did this consortium grant a few weeks ago, KBOR does provide letters of support for those efforts, and KBOR did for the consortium grant that we worked on with 3 other tech colleges. Apologize for not being there. Still, grandson is still in Children's Hospital. He went there the day he was born on September 10th. He's still there. We think things are getting better. There have been some complications. He was born without the connection between his esophagus and stomach. And the initial procedure to fix that has had some issues with being restricted and not passing through. They have fixed that. We think things are getting better. I hope so. Everybody's getting tired of this process, but at the same time, I remind my son and his wife, the baby's in the place where he needs to be to get the best help. So I'm taking care of my 13-year-old granddaughter. I had to get up a little bit ago and tell her to quit her drum practice since she doesn't have drums. And I will be back on campus briefly Friday and Monday. Then I'll probably be back here next week, but we think sometime, hopefully next week or the week after, they'll get to come home. Of course, in the age of COVID, working remotely is not too difficult, and I'm still able to keep up with everything. But I do appreciate Mary kicking in as the new assistant and board clerk and the help she's had from all the staff. And again, appreciate seeing y'all showing up for the meeting tonight in nasty weather. Stay safe and stay warm.
All right, Title III and Adult Ed, Chris. Is he on?
He's out on paternity leave.
Yeah.
Trying to use that baby as an excuse, huh?
He's got a bad brain.
Yeah.
The key thing from him is we've had the external evaluation visit on Title III, which was very positive.
Yes.
Adult Ed, we've had, I think 3 graduates in the last 2 weeks.
Yes, yes.
Again, the Title III, the evaluator reports the things we've done with that grant are forming a good chunk of our assurance argument for accreditation, because it really highlights the improvements we've made. So Chris is doing great.
Yeah. All right. Does Neil have more to add for COVID?
Not too much, no. Jim already covered operational, obviously trying to stay ahead of everything as we see the nation starting to trend up and other trends going in that direction. So we're just having those initial conversations about how we can make sure that we stay ahead of the game and plan for that. If you look at our COVID dashboard, we do have 2 active cases we are tracking. One's isolation, one's in quarantine. So that's the number of cases we currently have on campus, a lot less than some other of our entities up and down the ponds. So we're still doing pretty well with it. Overall, we've had just under, between quarantine and isolation, just under 50 cases overall. Keep in mind, a lot of those were quarantined due to just roommate to roommate contact with another student that is across the way from us. So a lot of those are not active, like positive cases on our campus. So of isolation cases that we've had, it's only been around, I believe, because I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, 6 or 7. So very low. And I hope it stays that way.
All right, faculty senate, Brian and Jeff on.
Yep. Brian's actually a Wamego.
Thank you, Neil.
So Jeff, you want to start it? You have the good stuff.
Sure, that'd be fine. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Brian and I just want to take a few minutes here and kind of update the board a little bit on some of the things that our programs are doing. Certainly not everything to give them up to, but some key points that we just wanted to bring to your attention. Kind of put it in a couple categories. First off, some programs we're working jointly to basically improve our college and do things that help improve each other's programs and or the facilities. The HVAC and welding department, in a joint effort, relocated a large air compressor, run the lines and electrical for that to move that to an area where they could improve quality of sound. It was very noisy in where it was at, so that was relocated by the programs. The welding department has also helped or erected some stands for the EPD program to hold the poles that Justin is working with, keep things more organized. HVAC system has also installed their own electrical drops in their own program and are waiting for an HVAC system to come in and be installed on the welding program classroom roof and help with installation of that via a crane. So some pretty big projects going on there, improving our campus and our facilities as joint efforts. So those are really cool. Other things the HVAC program has been involved with, just some highlights. They sent forth some information. Finishing up some HVAC systems in the Habitat House at Ogden, doing some good stuff over there. Working with a local flower shop with a walk-in cooler, getting some good hands-on training there. Working with a local apartment complex, was able to partner with them so the students do their electrical training on electrical heaters. And working with a local church, working on their total HVAC system coming up here the 1st of November. So a lot going on with that program, a lot of community things, links with the industry with them. Our automotive program has the opportunity to work on some of our oral communications here most recently. We had the opportunity to partner with Little Apple Toyota Honda. We had majority shareholder, GMs, and managers come in. We had a panel visit us at the college and do mock interviews for our students. So this included Cap City Nissan and Little Apple Toyota Honda here in town. What they gave the students was an opportunity to do an interview process for a job. What it would be like being interviewed by a panel, having to judge communication, different levels of communication. It was a great outcome. Also, it was an opportunity for some of the industry leaders to see our students and give them feedback on what they would like to see, what they'd like to see different, what they liked about what they saw. And had some great things to say about our program and our facility. So that was really encouraging. Building Trades is working on some Habitat House, much the same as HVAC. Also, we're going to partner. I live out here at Lake Elbow. We've asked them to give us a quote on some materials needed for a project over here over a road salt bin. So we're looking for that, and that's possibly some assistance in erecting that as well down the road. We'll see how that goes. I think some of the other things that the welding department has worked on, they're going to be big that you're going to see around the community, are the bus stops, out of bus stop stations, shelters. Those are going to be done soon. Also some steel benches that are going to be on the top of the world by the Manhattan signs and things like that. And some projects for some local churches as well. So have a lot of ties with the industry, a lot of projects going on, a lot of things with the community, helping with awareness. We thought those are great key points. And if you see any other opportunities for us or other programs, definitely let us know. Give us a shout. Send that down the line for us. So any questions about those things?
Yep. Great work.
And I want to give a shout out to my son. He was actually one of them that welded one of the stands for the EPD. So I just want to throw that out there. But one thing I did want to point out with that is that, you know, he's a senior at Wamego High School, and we actually have 2 seniors that are coming over to take our classes at night. So like my son, he goes to class at 1 o'clock, and then he comes over here and does a welding program from 2 to 8. And we'll have a Cert B at the end of the school year. So we're pretty excited. We're to kind of bounce off of that with the Wamego Center. One of the things that we're looking at is maybe like this summer, I would like to do where I lecture over here 1 day of the week, over there another day of the week. So that way we've got the high school students along with our students to make the classes bigger in the summertime. I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for us right there. We've even talked about maybe even having computers over there for students that maybe don't have internet at home and can take the classes during the summer, because they won't get computers once their school year's over. So there's a lot of opportunity right there. And I've actually got 2 instructors that are coming in that I've talked with that are looking at doing psychology, human growth and development, and public speaking next semester with the high school students. And with the psychology and the human growth and development, she'll actually be able to work with their schedule like I am. And we met with the counselor of Wamego, the high school, and that was one of the selling points that she really liked, was that we'd be able to work with their schedule. So I think that's going to maybe kind of put us ahead of the curve as far as like with Highland and so on. And I know that they're also talking CNA and EMT classes in the spring as well. So a lot of growth, a lot of development there. Sarah gets to see more of me than she probably wants to, because she's always over there when I'm teaching. So another thing I want to bring up, because they had on October 16th, the Kansas Core outcome groups met. So I met with the math program, and Jason met with the business program. And he told me, Jason did, that they developed and approved the state system-wide transfer core outcomes for principles of marketing. So that will be added as a course option within the administrative business administration program. So that I think is going to be huge, because it gives us another one that is transferable. Well, first one we worked with was stats. That went pretty quickly, but we spent almost 2 hours talking about intermediate algebra. And we liked, one of the things that I brought up, especially for us as a college, is that it'd be nice to have a benchmark of where we want to end intermediate algebra. Because for us, it's hard because we have nursing, that's one of the prerequisites. So when we have transfer students come in, sometimes those students haven't fulfilled those requirements that I teach here in the intermediate class. So then they lose a whole year having to take gen eds or wait to be able to get into the program because they need that intermediate algebra. And I was telling Jim, it's kind of interesting. I was more in line with the universities as far as what I wanted on the outcomes than, say, the community colleges or the technical colleges, because I think we have high standards here. I think our students are well prepared for the universities. So I think we made a good showing there, and they're actually looking at maybe making intermediate transferable as well, which would be nice, because then they would get a college credit. It'd be more of an elective. It wouldn't be a math credit. But again, that would be something, at least when they're paying for it, they're actually getting college credit for. Any questions?
You didn't say anything about Johnson County.
Yeah, I told Jim, it's a good thing I don't work in Johnson County, or else I'd probably lose it. But with being here, I had a meeting before this. I thought, well, I'd kind of show what we've been using. Well, this is the smart board in my classroom right now. And literally, I have not touched an Expo marker in probably, I don't know, almost a month now. And I was going through almost one a day. So
He was
budget
one
savings.
a day.
Well, that's called rehab. And are you using the remote control for your camera?
Yeah.
Yes, so basically before what I was doing is I was going from board to board, and now I can basically just put it there, or I can move it around. So this is gonna be huge. I think we're trying to get as many in the classrooms as possible. And I've had instructors come down and film their sessions here, do it. So for me, even if I was to go remote with my classes, I would still lecture here, because my night class, which I just started a couple weeks ago, the other night, I didn't have any students in the classroom, but I had almost all of them on Zoom. So like now I've got a TV in my room that I'm looking at all you guys, and then I was able to just lecture on the smart board. They were able to participate, and it was like they were in the classroom. Because a lot of them have kids, it's hard for them to make classes. So that allows the opportunity then for the students then to be able to attend the class, take care of their kids, but at the same time get their education. Plus, all of my lectures are recorded. So any class, they can go to the first day of class and look at the lectures.
So what you're seeing where Brian is what we call the Zoom rooms, and we have those set up and some of the CARES funding. But as far away as he is, we can hear him very clearly. And it works well for students, and so.
Brian, are you far enough along in the year to know if the students are retaining? Like, are they being as successful in the classroom via Zoom than they were if they were in the classroom with grades or performance?
I would say the ones that are participating and attending Zoom, yes. I still have that handful that they're not going to participate even if they're in the classroom. But I have seen more and more that have been sending me emails asking for me to, because see, we have to publish every lecture. And that's been a kind of a pain, because you have to go in after every class and publish it. But at least I'm getting those emails of, hey, where's the lecture? I didn't see it. So at least I know they're looking at it. And a lot of them have changed jobs because of COVID, and that's made it so they can still take the class. So I would say, yes, there's definitely been improvement there. We'll see what the next semester brings, but the ones that are face-to-face are still the most successful.
I think going back and being able to watch, a lesson that they probably missed. I mean, that's one of the key things. If you're sitting in that classroom and you miss it, you missed it. But if I have something that I can go back, and I think that was a lot of stuff that, that I probably missed when I was sitting in the classroom, and if I had that where I could go back and review it, then I could take my time and take a notes with it. You can pause it, fast forward it, I mean, it's all kind of things you can do with it. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think, there's some students, say that have ADHD or whatever. I've told them, focus on me and then go home and do the notes after. So that way, because a lot of students, especially math wise, it's hard for them to be able to go back and forth between taking notes, listening to me. And it's definitely improved the educational piece. And from now on, I'll probably record every lecture.
Awesome.
And it's across the board with the programs that are doing their Zoom pieces. Yeah. And you're right, they go back, the students go back and watch it. What we're seeing is that clear line between the students that are there and putting in the time and the effort. Mm-hmm. We're giving them every resource possible to be successful, and the ones who turn on the Zoom and walk away. Yeah. But we're dealing with adults here. Mm-hmm. They're choosing. They've mm-hmm. paid us to provide them education, and they're so choosing on how they want to spend that time.
Yes.
And what I appreciate with Brian and several other faculty turn to Brian and turn to the others to learn, how are you doing this? They get excited because Brian's excited. Mm-hmm. They get excited because Rodney Stanfield in information networking is excited. And that creates that energy within the faculty that you can't, we can't do that as administrators. It's got to come from within them, and it happens. Then you add in the support they get from our IT folks, from Josh and his crew, to put this technology in place, help them with it, support it. Again, we're making the best of a bad situation from COVID. Having these resources has enabled us to grab more of this technology, put it in place. This enables us to think even more post-pandemic. How do we expand our capacity without saying we've got to have more buildings, which where are we going to put those, much less afford them? So it's that blend of how do we do the lectures, this kind of stuff in that online hybrid so we can spend more time on our labs. So I can't thank Brian and the faculty enough, the IT crew enough, Sarah and Carmela. Again, it's just been a fantastic use of resources, of ideas, and of technology.
Well, and I've even told the Wamego High School that I'd be willing to do some professional development with them, just showing them what tools we've had and what, how we've been able to reach those remote students. Because I'm Facebook friends with a lot of teachers. Some of them, their students are actually in my class right now, and they said they're just tired. They can't, it's hard getting up every day when they've got so much work and they don't have the Zoom capabilities. They don't have the webcams. The students are struggling. The students are frustrated. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future, they won't be kind of reaching out to us to kind of get some ideas on what they could maybe do in their classrooms.
I hate to say anything nice about math teachers, but I think it's safe to say that Brian has never had a student say, I wish I had not taken math from Brian Cook.
They've even came from Kentucky to take my class. I'll just say that.
All right, anything else from the faculty senate? Hey, great job, guys. We really appreciate everything you're doing. Please keep it up. Please keep it up. Great job. Okay, next is transition to boardroom and tablets. Who's doing that?
Mary show.
Okay, so I was waiting for something miraculous to happen. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to say that in the last, you said the last year, Carmela?
Yes.
Mostly through the printing of the board packets, there has been $890, almost $900 spent just in paper, printing paper.
That was actually in 7 months. That
There you
figure
go.
is 7
Got it
months
from her.
printing, yes, printing this.
Okay, so one of the remedies to that that we came up with is that we might use tablets, and I can drop the packets every month in the Dropbox to the cloud. And then what would happen is I'm just gonna pass this around so you guys can see where I just put a rough draft of a packet in here. See, it just says board members. That's, we can name it whatever we want to name it. And then this is just a rough draft, but it's similar to the board packet that you have. And you can just, I know you guys all know what a tablet looks like, but I just wanted to show you, it was real simple for me to get that on there. And being that we email it to you anyway, every month, if there's corrections that need to be made, if you see something that needs to be corrected, I can still correct it just the same. It's just I won't go print 13 page packets for everybody in the room and then have to fix 5 of those pages for the 13 pack. You know what I mean? Just keep doing that. And it does, it saves money for the printer, but it also is more time efficient, for the school because it takes me longer to print all those packets.
And on the back end of it too, you can put your notes right in there into the same page as what our board packets come out on, who made the motion, who seconded, things such as that, and have that electronic file captured instantly.
Definitely, that's a good point. And then we also, they were looking into getting a cabinet to keep in the room where we have our board meetings. We'll keep it secure, and you can charge. It's like a charging port. They have charging ports within them. So we're looking into getting something like that for us. And I just wanted to see, just to show you and see what you thought about the idea. And
It's a good idea. Anything you can do to save money.
Might ask to see if Josh has anything to add.
Josh, you have anything to add?
I think you pretty well covered it. We need to take a vote on what kind of color of cover you want, like hot pink or lime green or whatever you guys think. But now we do have some, there's some smaller tablets available as well. This is the larger one. I don't know, it's maybe a little harder to hold in your hand, but the smaller one, then you're getting less of the PDF at once. So I think this one's the way to go. As you can see there, the case on that one was actually intended for use down in the HVAC department. It's just the testing unit we have. So we definitely wouldn't have to have anything that bulky or rugged for this case. Might be a little easier to handle. Then like Mary said, she can drop the packet in there for you real easily from her computer. It's pretty easy for her to manage. She doesn't actually have to go interact with the tablets at all. They'd be charging in the lockable cabinet. We would disable the auto pop-up updates and emails and all that stuff that would pop up and bother you while you're trying to attend the board meeting, and then just have a couple basic icons there for you. You could interact with the board notes and information, as well as have a web browser if you want to go check a website or something, and just try to keep them pretty simple so they're pretty fault proof.
Josh, would they, all of them be VPN?
Okay.
Safe?
So we went back and forth on this, but the actual current plan would be that these would actually stay, these would not leave campus with you.
Right.
They would be
locked. I mean, when we're in the room to where nobody outside that window can pick up what's going on through the handhelds or through whatever means that Mary's using over there as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what we set up is an authenticated OneDrive secured account through Manhattan Tech College. Each tablet is actually signed into that OneDrive account that we set up before you all have to interact with them. And then Mary has access to that one secured folder from her computer with her logged in account, and she can drop that information in you. So yeah, it's definitely all secured. And then the tablet itself would then just need to be secured physically, because we won't, if someone were to actually get a hold of that tablet, then they would gain access to that information. Although most everything that we would probably share in that folder should be public anyway, for the most part. We'll be doing the board packets and things like that.
So we don't already own these tablets, we're talking about purchasing them?
Well, that's why I hope you like the large ones, because we do have at least a few of those ready to go. So we would not have to purchase very many to go ahead and can get one for everybody.
We all have eye problems, so we like the larger ones.
Yeah. Some of us with advanced age.
So the great thing about the grant funds is that it has shored up a little bit more of the college funds. So we would be able to purchase the amount that he would need.
Through the CARES.
It wouldn't be through the CARES, but because the CARES has taken a lot of other things that we were already budgeting for, we can actually utilize some of those funds. But really, we're going to make those funds back, because as Mary mentioned, we did an analysis of 7 months in printer charges, and just for the board packet alone, it was $900.
Just the board packet,
Just
not
the
all the
board
other
packet.
printing that you do.
No, it's still 5.
No, it was just the board packet. Yeah. Yes. But however, I mean, that's just the way things work, but we're always looking at ways to be more efficient and more effective. And so I love the idea that Josh and Mary kind of collaborated on and came up with this idea. And I thought it was great, because again, while we may have to use institutional funds, we will make that money back by not printing.
Yeah.
So,
Josh, what about updates to the devices? Do you think that's gonna cost us something on the back end, or?
Updates for the devices, you mean just as they age?
Yeah, I mean, as they age.
Yeah, so I would put them just on the same rotation as probably just have to factor into the budget like we do our most of our PCs, which would be a 5-year. And if I would assume that they would last that long. I mean, we're only going to be using them for the meetings, keep them locked up, we'll keep them clean. Also put it on a schedule with our IT department to kind of go in monthly and run all their updates, keep all the security patches and everything on those. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even go beyond the 5 years, but I think we just have to kind of factor that into our rotation budget.
And Josh, we have educational pricing on all those devices, so we get pretty good deals, correct?
Yeah, for example, that tablet you're holding right there is $185. So they're really reasonable.
Done. I think so. Great. Just something more.
That's just one half of that.
What's the other half?
The other half.
Okay, yes,
Boardroom.
the other half is the boardroom. Josh, do you want to talk about the boardroom? Because you know the technicalities better than I do.
Sure. So the idea we kicked around for some time is I don't know who's all been out to 406, but we have it's one of the outbuildings kind of out by HVAC. Granted, the building itself is one of our older buildings, but we actually have a really nice conference room that we've set up in there that has really high-end audio video equipment. Kind of, for example, where you all are at right now was we set up the webcam kind of temporary before we knew how long this was going to go. So for like me at home right now, a lot of it's really muffled on when you all are speaking. So it's pretty tough to hear. Over in 406, we have the Zoom room basically set up. So we have the high-end Zoom Logitech camera, really good microphones, a smart board. It kind of be an area that we use for other meetings as well, but it would work pretty well for the board meetings. Mary could have, we'd have refrigerators over there. We could lock up the tablets, and we just think it would be a pretty good fit for these meetings moving forward, and we're at least hoping to possibly give that a try.
One of the issues with the current room, it is a classroom. It's used by nursing frequently. There have been times when we kind of butt up against each other as far as trying to get that room set up for board meeting and then tear it down and put it back for a classroom. And because, again, with COVID, sometimes the nursing schedule changes. So we'd ask you to consider letting us try moving it over to 406, maybe for the January meeting, and see what you think about it.
I would just like to add that while, as they mentioned, it is very muffled when you're on that side, sometimes they're muffled to you all as well. And so another part of the Zoom room is there is a intercom that sits in the middle. And so you can hear, they can hear us. And so it really just works, as you saw with Brian, how it was very clear. That's exactly how it's set up. It has a camera, we can move it around. And then it has the large board over there. There are, bathrooms that are over there. Our IT department shares half of that building, and so it is a secured place. But again, as Josh and Mary mentioned, and Jim, it's just one of our conference areas, and it really can work well for the board meeting. It's just going to be on the other side of campus.
I was thinking December 8th when we have the next scheduled monthly board meeting, that we might, take a walk over there, either before we begin or during. We'll work out the specifics, I guess, between now and then, but that way you guys can actually see it in person before we meet over there and you know where you're going.
Sounds like a plan.
Will we be able to social distance in that room?
Yes. It's about as big as this room
Is parking over there?
is. Yes, yes, sir. Right at the building.
Yeah.
Is that where we had the HLC
Yeah.
meeting last year?
I think that's where we're.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Now there's new technology in there. See, this fifth year.
Okay, doesn't look like we have anything for evaluation of board process, ownership linkage.
We've
Jim?
already covered the foundation stuff as well.
Yep.
Carmela, did you mention about the audit report possibly in November?
Actually, I can go ahead and address that. I spoke to our auditors yesterday. They're a little behind schedule. We started with them, a month or so ago, and they're still working with us and other clients. So he just informed me that they will have it ready for the December 8th meeting, the annual audit.
Tell them we might be a little slow on payment.
I agree. No, he apologized, and I just said, it just cannot be past December 8th. This has gone on a little too long, and we have deadlines that we have to actually meet with, providing our audit paperwork to many of our Yeah, I know.
You're still using Barney's, right?
We are, because every year it just seems to go by so fast.
Yeah.
So you should see it December 8th, and they will likely present.
Any other comments or questions? If not, that leads to the last thing on the agenda there. Next board meeting is December 8th. We won't have a November meeting. And that'll be at 5:30 and here in the same room in 104. All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.